With Jim Berger, and we're going to interview him on his past history. All right, and we're going to interview about John F. Kennedy, president. All right, first question: Where were you when this assassination took place, and how did you react when heard it happened?
I was working at the railroad. I was an apprentice. And when I first heard it, the whole shop, everybody in that shop was just stunned. Everything just went quiet. We all went to a radio or some kind of place where we get information to see what was going on. Shock.
Question number 2: Did this event affect you emotionally or mentally, and if it did, how so?
Well, I was only 19 at the time, so it did. I got probably scared. I got angry at what was happening. Stunned. I couldn't believe that the President of the United States got shot. We just couldn't believe that at all. And so I think emotionally I felt scared. I felt angry because it was done, and fearful.
Question number 3: What was the community like after this event happened?
What was the what?
Community like?
The whole community was fearful. People were crying, shocked, stunned. Their president was killed. I think people were scared that something else was going to happen. Just a minute. Well, it was. Yeah, my wife was just cluing me in over here. It was like 9/11. Think about 9/11. And it was very, very much the same.
Question number 4: How long did it take the community and U.S. citizens to overcome this assassination?
Never. We're still dealing with that. Our generation's still dealing with that because when that happened, we were scared and we become very untrusting. And I don't know if we've really ever established that trust level again about somebody coming into our country and shooting our president. So I don't think we've ever gotten over that.
Was there anything going on that might have foreshadowed this assassination?
I think so. We had it's called the Bay of Pigs. We invaded Cuba, which was a terrible thing. It just was a completely washout. And I think that kind of got that mindset about doing something, those people doing something about it. I think that had an effect on.
Mm-hmm. Okay. How has this event somehow changed the way you live your life today?
Oh, I think my life today, I was inspired by President Kennedy, that he was a smart president, but he backed his words up with true belief and true action. And I think I learned from that, and the things that I believe in today, I'll follow up on, and I'll act on. Mm-hmm. Also, we get back to that fear and untrusting of maybe other countries, or, like Al-Qaeda and what's going on today. That's the same kind of fear that we had then, and we got that same fear today.
Is there something specific you remember that day? For example, something someone said or something you did?
I went home. I was living at home. And I went home and watched television from the second we got home that night. And we watched everything. And the thing that I remember distinctly, there used to be a newscaster named Walter Cronkite. I loved the man. He had a heart just like gold. I'll never forget when he said, he cried when President Kennedy died. I'll never, ever forget that.
Why do you believe this assassination took place in the first place?
Hatred. It's why we have the situation we got today. Hatred, greed, the misuse of power, uncaring, those things that affected our lives back then affect our lives today. Until we get rid of that, we'll always have this crap.
If this assassination did not take place, do you think the world would be the same today?
No, I don't think so, because President Kennedy was the president that we all believed in, had faith in. He was a president who, reached out not only to defend our nation, and just think, he led us to landing on the moon, but he was very much involved in helping the poor and helping people. I think we would have had maybe a little bit different direction today.
Was there anything else happening at the time that was big in the news?
Lots was happening at that time. Vietnam was very much a part of what was going on. protesting. There was all kinds of protesting to the Vietnam conflict. People were burning their draft cards. They were moving to Canada. There was protesting. Kent State, students were actually shot by the National Guard. That was another thing that was happening. The Beatles, they were coming over this country. There was just a lot of unrest in our country at that time. Lots.
Does this incident compare to anything that's happening in our world now?
Well, I think 9/11 again is probably a real comparison to that. You know, it's interesting that you know, when the president got shot that day, they arrested Lee Harvey Oswald for shooting President Kennedy. And I seen this on television the next day. They were bringing Lee Harvey Oswald out of the jail. Jack Ruby jumped out of where all the cameras were. I watched this on TV, and he shot and killed Lee Harvey Oswald on television the very next day. So, you know, it's interesting. All them things play out. It was the 60s were, lots of things happened in the 60s.
How quickly did you hear about this assassination?
Well, not as quickly as you hear about it today. We heard about it in the afternoon, and I didn't know that President Kennedy died until probably 3 or 4 hours after I heard that. Today, the way we communicate today, you'd have been right there and you would have seen it, everything happening instantly. So we didn't communicate. We didn't have all the sophistication you have today. It was slower and took some time.
Is there anything about President Kennedy's funeral that you remembered?
We were all glued to the TV, very sober day. I do remember when he went by Jackie, his wife, and his youngest son, John. That John couldn't have been 4 years old, 3 years old, and he saluted his dad as he went by. And interesting that his son, John, died in a plane crash at a very young age himself.
Well, thank you for the interview.
All right.